What is this nonsense? Toby, you're not a village child. Adanna, you're here to work, not to fill his head with village games.
I'm sorry, madam. I only wanted to make him smile. Mom, I asked her to show me. She didn't do anything wrong.
Enough, go to your room. Adanna, remember your place in this house.
Yes, madam.
Before the sun rose over Lagos, before the gates of Banana Island opened for cleaners, drivers, cooks, and guards, a young woman stood outside a mansion with one small bag in her hand.
I finally I made it to Lagos. Lagos is so beautiful. See that fine car?
And dust from the village still on her slippers. Her name was Adanna. She had come from Umoma, a quiet village where the nights were dark enough to see every star, and the mornings smelled of firewood, wet soil, and pepper soup boiling somewhere far away. In that village, people knew her as the girl who listened more than she spoke, the girl who could calm a crying child, read the sky before rain, and treat small sicknesses with leaves her grandmother taught her to gather before sunrise. But in Lagos, nobody knew any of that. In Lagos, she was just the new house girl. The mansion belonged to Chief Gabriel Coker, one of the richest men in the city. His house had marble floors so shiny that Adanna could see her face in them. The walls were tall, the windows wide, the compound bigger than the entire square in her village. Everything smelled of expensive perfume, imported flowers, and money that had never known hunger. Chief Coker lived there with his wife, Mrs. Ronk Coker, and their only son, Toby, a quiet 12-year-old boy who spent most of his days behind glass windows, watching the world as if he was not allowed to enter it. From the first day, the other workers laughed at Adanna. They laughed at the way she tied her wrapper when she was cleaning. They laughed at her accent. They laughed because she said good morning to the flowers before watering them. Even Mrs. Ronke looked at her like something brought in from a dusty road. Just do your work quietly, she told her. This is Lagos, not your village. Adanna lowered her eyes and nodded, but silence was not weakness. Her grandmother had taught her that. In Umoma, Mama Nedi was known as the woman people ran to when hospitals were too far, when babies had fevers at midnight, when old men could no longer breathe well, and when mothers needed hope. She never called herself powerful. She only said, "The world speaks softly. A wise person listens." Adanna had listened all her life, so in the Coker mansion, she listened too. She noticed that Toby hardly ate. She noticed that his hands trembled when he held a glass cup. She noticed that his laughter when it came ended too quickly, like a bird frightened from a tree. Doctors came often, expensive doctors with shiny shoes and serious faces. They spoke in low voices to Chief and Madame. They changed medicines. They wrote reports, but Toby did not get better. At night, when the mansion slept, Adanna would sometimes see him sitting by the kitchen door, wrapped in a blanket, staring at the garden. One night, she quietly placed a cup of warm water beside him and turned to leave. He looked up. "You're the only one who doesn't ask me if I'm okay," he said. Adanna paused. She smiled gently, because sometimes people are tired of answering. From that night, Toby began to trust her. He told her small things first, that he missed school, that his friends stopped visiting, that his mother cried when she thought nobody could hear, that his father had built hospitals for strangers but still could not fix his own son. Adanna never promised him miracles. She only listened. And sometimes, when no one was watching, she sang old village songs while arranging the kitchen. Songs about rivers, brave hunters, stubborn goats, and children who found their way home. Toby would smile from the doorway. For a little while, the house felt less cold, but kindness is easy to ignore when pride is louder. One afternoon, Mrs. Ronke walked into the kitchen and found Toby laughing while Adanna showed him how to fold palm leaves into a tiny bird. Her face hardened. "What is this nonsense?" The laughter disappeared. Adanna stood immediately. Mrs. Ronke snatched the palm leaf from Toby's hand. "You are not here to entertain my son with village rubbish. You are here to work." Toby looked down. Adanna said nothing. Mrs. Ronke turned to her. "Do not forget your place." That night, Adanna cried quietly in the laundry room. Not because of the insult. She had heard worse. She cried because Toby's smile had been taken away like something stolen. Days passed. The house prepared for Chief Coker's 60th birthday celebration. It was not just a party. It was the kind of event Lagos people talked about before it happened. Governors were invited. Musicians were booked. Foreign wine arrived in crates. Tailors came and went. The mansion became a storm of gold fabric, fresh flowers, polished silver, and loud instructions. Mrs. Ronke wanted everything perfect. Adanna worked from morning till night. She washed, cleaned, served, carried, swept, arranged, and disappeared whenever important guests arrived. Nobody wanted the village girl in sight.
On the evening of the party, the mansion glowed like a palace. Cars lined the street. Cameras flashed. Women in lace and diamonds floated across the compound. Men laughed with the confidence of people who had never begged for anything. Toby was dressed in white, sitting beside his mother, looking tired but trying to smile. Adanna watched from the kitchen door. Something felt wrong. At first, it was small. A scent in the air. Sharp. Bitter. Almost hidden beneath perfume, food, and flowers. She froze. Her grandmother's voice rose in her memory. "The world speaks softly. A wise person listens." Adanna stepped closer to the trays prepared for the family table. There was a special bowl of soup made only for Chief, Madam, and Toby. Imported ingredients, private chef, special service. The bitter scent came from there. Her heart began to beat fast. She looked around. The chef was shouting at two waiters. The staff were rushing. Nobody noticed her. Adanna dipped a clean spoon into the soup, touched a tiny drop to her finger, and smelled it again. Her stomach tightened. She knew that smell. Not exactly poison. Not the kind from stories. Something was because it could hide. A leaf extract used wrongly. Bitter enough to damage the body. Slow enough to look like sickness. And suddenly, pieces began to join in her mind. Toby's trembling hands. His weak appetite. The strange smell she had noticed faintly on some of his meals before. The way his sickness rose after certain dinners and eased when he ate simple food from the kitchen. Adanna's hands went cold. Someone had been hurting the boy inside his own home. She carried the bowl and turned toward the sink. A sharp voice stopped her. "What are you doing?" It was Mr. Bamadil, Chief Coker's younger brother. He was smiling, but his eyes were not smiling. Adanna held the bowl tightly. "The soup is bad, sir." His smile faded for half a second. Then he laughed. "Bad? Do you know what this soup cost?" The chef turned. Mrs. Ronk heard the noise and came in, her face burning with anger. "What is going on here?" Adanna swallowed. "Madam, please. Toby must not eat this food." The kitchen went silent. Mrs. Ronk stared at her as if she had slapped her. "Have you lost your mind?" "Madam, the soup has something inside." People began to murmur. Mr. Bamadil stepped forward. "This is what happens when you bring bush people into a civilized home. They see evil everywhere." Adanna's voice shook, but she did not drop the bowl. "Please call a doctor. Test it first." Mrs. Ronk raised her hand and slapped her. The sound cracked through the kitchen. Adanna's cheek burned. Her eyes filled with tears, but she still held the bowl. Outside, music played. Guests laughed. Cameras flashed. Inside, a village girl stood alone against a room full of people who saw her as nothing. Chief Coker entered, drawn by the noise. What is happening? Mrs. Wrong pointed at Adanna. This girl is trying to disgrace us. She says the food is poisoned. Chief looked at the bowl. Then at Adanna. For the first time since she entered the house, he truly saw her. Why do you say that? He asked. Adanna turned to him. Sir, your son is not just sick. Something has been entering his food little by little. I know the smell. My grandmother treated a man once who had the same symptoms. Mr. Bamedil laughed again, louder this time. So now we are using village medicine to diagnose wealthy people. Toby, pale and weak, appeared at the kitchen entrance. Daddy, he said softly, please listen to her. That changed everything. Chief Coker took the bowl from Adanna and ordered everyone to stop service. The family doctor, already present at the event, was called. Samples were taken. The party continued outside, but inside the mansion, fear moved like smoke. Minutes felt like hours. Then returned, his face serious. He asked to speak privately, but Chief refused. Say it here. The doctor looked at the bowl. There is a harmful substance in the soup. Mrs. Wrong covered her mouth. The kitchen erupted. Mr. Bamedil stepped back. Chief slowly turned to him. But the greatest twist was not the poison soup. When security checked the kitchen cameras, they found Mr. Bamedil entering through the service door before the party. He had added something to the soup. But older footage showed more. For months, he had been visiting the kitchen whenever Toby's meals were prepared. His plan had been patient and cruel. If Toby died, Chief's grief would weaken him. If Chief became broken, Bamedil would control the family business. He had already prepared documents, already whispered lies, already planned his rise. But he forgot one thing. He forgot that the people he ignored could still see. He forgot that a girl from a village knew the language of leaves, sickness, silence, and danger. The police took him away that night in front of the same guest he had tried to impress. No music could cover the shame. Mrs. Wrong stood in the kitchen, trembling. Her eyes moved to Adanna's swollen cheek. For a long moment, pride fought with guilt. Then she walked to Adanna and knelt. The entire kitchen went still. I am sorry, she whispered. Adanna stepped back, uncomfortable, but Mrs. Wrong held her hand. I looked down on the person God sent to save my child. Tears rolled down Adanna's face. Not because she wanted revenge. Because, for the first time in that house, someone called her a person. Toby recovered slowly. Not in one day. Not like magic. Healing took time. Doctors treated him. His body grew stronger. His hands stopped trembling. His appetite returned. His laughter came back fully, filling empty corners of the mansion like sunlight entering a room that had been closed for years. Chief Coker did not send Adanna back to the kitchen. He asked her what she wanted. At first, she did not understand the question. Nobody had ever asked her that. She looked toward the garden, where Toby was folding palm leaves again. Then she said she wanted to study. Not because she wanted to become rich. Not because she wanted to prove anything. She wanted to learn both worlds. The wisdom of her grandmother and the science of hospitals. She wanted to help people who were too poor to be heard and too simple to be believed. Chief sponsored her education. Years later, in the same Lagos where she was once mocked for her accent, Adanna opened a small community health center. It had clean walls, patient nurses, affordable care, and a garden of healing plants behind the building. On the opening day, Mrs. Wrong came wearing simple clothes and no diamonds. Chief stood beside her. Toby, taller now and full of life, carried the ribbon. People gathered from different places. Market women, drivers, children, teachers, old men, young mothers. Some came because they needed care. Some came because they had heard the story of the village girl who saved the mansion. Adanna stood before them, no longer hiding her voice. She did not speak like Lagos people. She spoke like herself. Warm. Steady. True. She told them her grandmother once said that every person carries a light, but some lights are covered because the world is too busy admiring gold. Then she looked at Toby, smiling in the crowd. Some people shine from palace windows, she said. Some shine from village roads. But light is light, no matter where it begins. That evening, after everyone had gone, Adanna walked alone through the garden behind the clinic. The air smelled of rain and fresh leaves. For a moment, she could almost hear her grandmother humming. She knelt beside a young plant and touched the soil. Lagos still roared beyond the fence. Cars honked. Generators hummed. People rushed toward dreams, money, status, and survival. But inside that small garden, Adanna smiled. They had called her a village girl like it was an insult. They never knew the village had raised a healer. They never knew silence could carry wisdom. They never knew the girl they ignored would one day become the reason a family survived, a boy lived, and a city remembered that dignity does not come from marble floors or golden gates. Sometimes, destiny does not arrive wearing a crown. Sometimes, it arrives with one small bag, dusty slippers, and a heart brave enough to stand alone when everyone else refuses to listen.